so let's keep on going with our quadratic transformations activity here. So the next section or slide asks you to look at how the slider for h will make changes in the parabola. So you'll notice though, before I start moving the slider, that h here, what's different about it? Or what's changed from when we were talking about k. When we talked about k, we had y equals x squared plus or minus k. But there's no what? What's different? The difference is that you now have parentheses. You'll notice the h is on the inside of the parentheses. Also, we initially, on the last slide, when we talked about k, we had a plus sign. Not that it can't be negative. It can be negative sometimes. But we're starting out here with h with a negative sign in there. Okay, so as I move h to the right, let's see what happens. If I move h to the right of my slider, okay, let's go maybe to 4. You'll see I have a positive 4 here. So moving it to the right is really going to put, if we wrote it inside the parentheses here, if I rewrote the equation, y equals x minus h, so our h is 4, squared. So when I look at an equation, if they give me an equation that looks like this, I know that we're moving 4 in which direction? We're moving in 4 places to the right, because our vertex started out here, right, at the origin at 0, 0, and then it moves to here, to the right, to 4. And then if you're going to do the kind of the opposite, I guess, and you're going to move it the other direction, you're going to be what? It's going to look like you're adding, right? It's going to be a plus sign when we are writing the equation. So if I start back at 0, okay, and I move it here, let's do -3. All right, if I have -3, what happens when I plug in a -3 into the equation? I already had a subtraction sign, so it'll be like minus 3 squared. Well, what happens when you have those two negative signs? It's like the keep change thing many of you have learned. That becomes a positive when we're looking at the equation. So if your equation looks like this, you're given a plus sign in it on the inside of the parentheses, we know that that means it is going to move to the left. So think about how h changes the function. So what did you observe about the graph when you changed h? Well, when you're changing h, we have a horizontal translation, okay, that changes the position of the graph, but it doesn't change the size of the graph, right? So we could move it to the left, and that'll have like a positive number on the inside, which is opposite of how we normally think it, because technically moving to the left is like the negative direction. But remember, we're starting out with a negative on the inside of the parentheses. And then if we're going to move to the right this way, we're going to start out with our h value being negative. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful in kind of explaining what h and k are going to do to the graph. You can go through these different practice problems and see what's happening. Just make sure you're paying attention to the direction. So it says directions. It says we're starting from the blue and we're moving to the red. So what direction are we moving? We're moving to the right here. Okay, so this is asking you to describe the translation from the blue parabola over to the red parabola. So we would be moving to the left. So you could write an equation there in the box that kind of tells us which direction we're moving. But for h, it can be a little bit trickier than you had with k. So remember, if you're moving to the left, it's going to look like a plus sign on the inside. So like here, we're moving 4 to the left. So just don't forget that it's opposite for this one.